In March of 2020, my family was scheduled to take a trip to Japan. At the top of my list was visiting the game centers in Tokyo and Osaka. I hadn't played a game at a sit-down Japanese-style arcade machine since Chinatown Fair closed in New York more than a decade ago. Of course, that trip hasn't happened yet. Instead, I've managed to put my own spin on a Japanese arcade machine and live a little chunk of that arcade experience in my own home in New England. This is my Taito Vuelix L. I bought it used from a dealer who I have to assume has been importing dozens from game centers that have been closing all across Japan in the past year. All the art you see on it now was added after I received it. It came to me as an empty cabinet with an outdated 720p monitor. Out of the box, it didn't have a lot of usability with the types of games I wanted to play. It was made for arcade operators and used proprietary connectors for video and control panel functionality. I was much more interested in playing PC and console games online with it, given the state of modern netcode and the incredible variety of software that we all have at our fingertips. In general, I wanted it to operate as seamlessly for me personally as possible, and be tuned to the hardware I paired with it. This video is designed to give you ideas about how to do this yourself if you're ever presented with a similar opportunity. All the off-the-shelf components I list will be linked down below, wherever I'm able to find them. The monitor is an LG QHD IPS with 1 millisecond of response time and G-Sync. I mounted it internally with an amazing bracket from an awesome store called Hadouken Arcade. The viewing angles are excellent, and the install was pretty painless. Most Vuelix cabinets are only single player and networked internally within a Japanese arcade. I like the idea of network play, but I also wanted the option of playing next to a family member or friend like in American arcades that I grew up with. The panel is a reproduction made by an incredible modder in Brazil and looks nearly identical to the one-player panel that came with my machine. I use Seimitsu buttons and Seimitsu levers. This, of course, is personal taste. For me, they've got a little bit more tension than Sanwa parts, and they're not as clunky as the HAP IL components found on machines domestically. An unfortunate side effect of my machine coming from a Japanese arcade was all of the nicotine that had to be cleaned off it. It's clean now, but I purchased a reproduction Taito ashtray as a nod to the Vuelix's heritage. Of course, now I just keep 100 yen coins in it. Despite the significant amount of modification in my Vuelix, I did leave the original Seiko Asahi coin mechanism fully intact. When a coin is added, it essentially presses the select button on the one-player panel. This works well for Capcom Street Fighter Collection and also my Neo Geo MVS, but we'll get to that one later. There are two plastic removable panels on the control deck of the Vuelix. These appear to be where arcade operators could add NFC card functionality, as mine once had, or potentially other mechanisms. I did find myself almost always putting my phone down on the now vestigial card reader panel. To give it new life, I added wireless chargers internally. The USB ports are now directly connected to the PC internally, kind of like a front panel I/O with the power button. These now allow for third or fourth players in brawler games like Scott Pilgrim, and for jerks who bring hitboxes to my house. Most of the time though, the USB and headphone combo port is for playing online with friends, so they don't have to listen to my in-game audio or their own voice coming back at them through the Vuelix's speakers. And speaking of speakers, I was really surprised at how good the speakers that came installed in my Vuelix are. There are 4 of them, 2 above and 2 below the monitor. Their sound quality is excellent, with great spatial stereo if you're right in front of the machine. They were simple enough to wire into an inexpensive amplifier I found on Amazon. So that about covers us for the day-to-day functionality of this device as an arcade Steam-based PC running in big picture mode. Let's shut it off for now and check out some of the more retro-based things this machine is equipped for. I've always been a big fan of the Neo Geo and have a small collection of MVS cartridges. It was very important that the Vuelix be able to shift gears and operate as a fully functional Neo Geo when I wanted it to. My Neo Geo MVS is a 2-slot with an acrylic case made by Lions 3. The control panel in the Vuelix operates on a homemade USB switch box. Flipping each side to Neo Geo and turning on the MVS is all it takes to fire up both the SNK arcade board and the RetroTink driving the display. Of course, RGB lighting is in stock in an MVS. I added it to the inside of the MVS metal shell because I thought it would look cool with the acrylic panel. A nice side benefit to this is that the cartridges that are transparent or have a smoky finish like this Garo Mark of the Wolves one take on a neat glow internally when the system is fired up. With all of that done, the Vuelix becomes a dedicated Neo Geo MVS cabinet. I can toggle between the two slots by tapping the select key for player 2. In this case, we've got a Neo SD cartridge with King of Fighters 98 loaded, and you can easily swap to the previously mentioned Garou Mark of the Wolves. Because my Unibios is set to Japanese arcade, the language is Japanese. The coin slot being wired to player 1's select button adds credits to the game. What I didn't realize before assembling this was that the credits stayed active when you chose your game. Pretty neat if you have second thoughts about what you've put 100 yen in for. Other consoles are a flip away with the USB switch box. The Dreamcast occupies a position just below the MVS in my heart and therefore is always available for a quick round of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or SOCAL. Any other system you'd want to play is connected to the Vuelix through this, an HDMI matrix switch box. I tried a few of these before finding this one. KVM switches didn't really work the way I wanted with USB inputs, and other HDMI switches usually weren't self-powered. The cool thing about this matrix switcher is that it lets me send any digital video output to either my Vuelix or the Samsung The Frame TV that sits above my retro console barn. No, I didn't install that sliding door, but I do kinda like it after living with it for a while. With all of my modern consoles and FrameMeister turned on, it looks like this. I can switch the Frame TV to be a video display that duplicates what you see on the Vuelix, making Gundam playable from my chair or the arcade cabinet. Or I can put that input to any number of other things, like the Xbox One S tucked into the bottom of my shelves. Or maybe my Nintendo Switch, which you can see popping up right here, if it'll go. Thanks, Samsung The Frame. And finally, a console like the Sega Saturn running through the FrameMeister over RGB. With two displays, it might actually be possible to have enough screen real estate for a fully maxed out game of Saturn Bomberman. Any console that can have a USB device control it with a Brook adapter is easy to connect to my USB switch. In fact, I'm using Brook Universal Fighting Boards inside the Vuelix itself. The Saturn in particular looks amazing on this LG panel and the FrameMeister. Super crisp and colorful. But hey, I know what a lot of you are saying right now. Hey Dorfus, it's not really all that safe to have a ton of people over for Saturn Bomberman right now. Can this machine suit my current lifestyle? And I'm happy to tell you that yes. Because of the sturdy feet raising the casters off the floor, the Vuelix is perfect for enjoying that other exciting present-day hobby. Drinking alone while you game. Happy gaming, everyone.